Welcome to the EQ4 Life podcast. The purpose of the EQ4 Life podcast is to casually educate listeners on being smart about emotions, or what science calls emotional intelligence. Using our unique life experiences, let's have some fun and share with folks how important these skills and abilities are in everyday life. And here's our host, a practitioner and teacher of emotional intelligence, Parrish Owen Taylor.
All right, we're going 3 and 2 and 1. All right, welcome, Parrish Owen Taylor, the EQ4 Life podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest. I got to tell you, I could describe him in so many different ways. There is well, we met in the stands. So he was, he's a parent, he's a military veteran. He is a Christian man. He's, I think he'll say now he's behind the podium, which he'll talk more about that. Chuck Webster, are you with us? Are you with me, Chuck?
I am with you. Glad to be here, Parrish. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too, man. Me too. We talk so much. I thought, man, let's go ahead and just see if we can capture on the podcast. So let's hear from your perspective. Let me tell us a little bit about Chuck Webster, because there's a lot to say here. Tell us about Chuck.
I consider myself what I would say I'm in Act 2, and Act 1 being I'm a retired career military officer. Spent 30 years in the military after graduating from college, and I spent that time on active duty all over the United States, and commanded at all levels, led and commanded at all levels up to brigade level, not all levels, I guess. But and I retired a full colonel back in 2013. And then when I retired, I took over a large program, a defense contract down in Louisiana, which is why I was living in Louisiana when I met you, Parrish. And that was a large, I was a vice president and senior program manager for a defense contractor for about 3 years. And really enjoyed that, but determined that's not exactly what I wanted to do. And then that my wife and I, the Lord kind of put an opportunity in front of us to move to Kansas, which we really liked because we had lived here twice before. And so we decided to take a job in the Army University at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And I'm an assistant professor, and I teach brigade level commanders and command sergeant majors organizational leadership as they prepare to go into command. So that's what I'm currently doing, and enjoy it. Really loved it. Been doing it. I'm on my 5th year doing it now, and it's really it's a great opportunity to engage in all the things that you and I talk about on a daily basis, and also to stay engaged with the current Army leadership and the challenges they're going through, which is what I love to do, and what I loved when I was in the service. So,
right. Well, your passion for growing people. I mean, you got a passion for that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And,
so look, I want you to keep going. That's just the career. So we got a family man here. You're active in worship. So just give us a little bit of background on that. Miss Caroline, come on now.
I am. I'm married to Miss Caroline, Saint Caroline, we call her, because she's got a heart of a saint, and she is the bedrock of our family. And we've been married 31 years.
Wow.
Just this past September.
Yeah. That's emotional intelligence. That's emotional intelligence right there. 31 years. Huh?
That's exactly right. And loved every minute of it. We've been strong for 31 years, and we have 3 outstanding kids. We have our oldest daughter, who is late 20s, and she attended and graduated from United States Military Academy, and served in the Army until she was a captain. Then she separated. She is married to another graduate of the United States Military Academy, and still married, and they are stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, where he is still an active duty captain and doing great stuff. And she is a mother of 2, our 2 grandsons, and one just had a birthday. The youngest is 2, and the oldest is closing in on 4. And and she's in a master's program, and she's got a heart for people. and she loves to take care of people. And she wants to be a social worker or a family counselor is what she really has a heart for. And so she's working on her master's while being a full-time mom. And then eventually she thinks she's going to, will build into a doctoral program in social work or family counseling.
Fantastic.
So that's our oldest daughter, Jen. And then our oldest son, Nicholas, who's mid-24, mid-20s. And he's also a graduate of the United States Military Academy in civil engineering. And he is a first lieutenant at Fort Carson, Colorado, right south of Denver.
Wow.
And he flies attack helicopters. So nice. Right now he is a platoon leader. He has 4 attack helicopters under his charge, along with about 30 soldiers, and he's loving every minute of it. He's doing great stuff. Wow. And he's got a real close girl that we believe he's going to probably ask her to marry her here coming pretty soon. So we love her to death, and so we're real excited about that. And then our youngest son, Jack, is a graduate of Louisiana State University and in business and doing great stuff. And he is a professional rugby player. He plays for Major League Rugby, which is a new league within the United States. He plays for New Orleans Gold, which is located in New Orleans, of course. And they are one of the 13 teams in Major League Rugby. And he is quite an athlete. And so he is really enjoying that. He's doing well. He finished his first rookie year, went to France for about 6 weeks this past summer to play rugby with a big program that's a sister program to New Orleans Gold. And then has since been selected to play on our international team. And they have a series of 3 tournaments coming up because the Major League Rugby season doesn't start until January. So they're in between the seasons.
Okay.
And so he is.
So is this their off season then?
It is their off season right now. Mm-hmm. And so what he's doing is working out and working. Mm-hmm. And then he got this opportunity. He got selected to play on this international team. And so he plays in a tournament in mid-November in Portugal. Nice. And if he does well there, and the coaches like him, and he plays well, he can get selected for the next 2 tournaments.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure where they're going to be, but he is doing really good.
Kind of a showcase then over there in Portugal.
It is.
Yeah. I talked to Swade the other day. I had a chance to go down and see the boys down in Baton Rouge, and he said he talked to Jack. So I love the fact that they stay connected.
They do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. A proud father, show up dad, no doubt, right? You've been blessed with your family. You've got the offspring. Where did we meet? You remember, Chuck? I mean, it was, I know we met in the, I guess it was the ball stands, wasn't it?
It was in the first, no, it was the football stands is when we first connected. We had seen each other. And I can't remember if I think it was a football game. And so we just started talking and been connected from there. And then many lunches and many breakfasts and many engagements over the last 8 years or so.
And then we do a little worshiping together as well.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Let's talk about, it's EQ4 Life, man. So it's all about emotional intelligence. When did you, because you're an advocate of EQ, EI. When did you first get the notion of it all and the whole idea about being smart? Was it the military or just?
The term emotional intelligence, I didn't really learn that term or that label, I would say. Probably until I started meeting with you and really started putting some study into it. But I would say that the aspects of what you teach and what you advocate are, the habits, the chatter, the hijacking, are all areas that we work on within the military. And I would say it would relate to almost any high stress, high danger occupation. But from my experience, trying to control soldiers' emotions when they're asking them to do things that are not natural is all about emotional intelligence. And it's not natural for soldiers to train to take somebody else's life. It's not natural to jump out of airplanes. It's not natural to do a lot of things in the dark and limited visibility that the military asks for you to do. I was an infantry officer, so that's the type of units that I dealt with and served in. And the primary purpose of that organization is to close with and destroy the enemies of our country in ground combat. So that's what we train to do. That's what we practice to do. So the aspect of trying to controls, I guess, is a bad word, or maybe not the right word, but it's trying to learn to live with your emotions. Learn to learn to be able to execute the task you need to execute under all conditions, I guess, is what I was looking for.
Right. Well, and you went to both extremes, right? Obviously, and to isolate the conversation, because we're almost having two. One in what we would call safety critical task.
Yep.
If the decision is made and there's all kind of safety issues are very critical, you can't take them back, blah, blah, blah. But then you said it well too, Chuck. It's just, learning to live with the emotions. And I chuckled because, I think we need to talk about it. Let the listeners understand it more about control is not a good word. Why? Why is controlling your emotions not a good way to talk or even teach it?
Because it seems, to me, it denotes a dominance or a contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've learned, both in the military as we kind of move away, we may have called it something different. We call it resiliency.
Right.
We call it understanding what is happening around you and still be able to move forward, to overcome fear, to overcome uncertainty. And then the resiliency portion of it is being able to live with it afterwards. To understand your actions, although they may have been, in other words, they were very scary and very dangerous at the time. Now, how can I live beyond that? Control that inner voice, that inner chatter, that those thoughts that are hijacking your current actions and your current behavior and your current emotions because of something you did in the past.
Absolutely.
So I hate to use the word control, but sometimes you have to use the control. But we're trying to trying to condition certain responses in order to be able to fight through or to operate under very extreme and stressful conditions.
Mm-hmm. No, there's a recent book I highly encourage you with the listeners, Power of Habits. And, it compliments our military about, again, very strict routines repeated to create the habit loop so that there is clarity of thought in chaos, or when fatigued, the ability to focus. Which sounds simple, but there's that small print, right? Skills required. So, again, just a love and model in what we see in the military. Again, the dominance part on control, I get that, right? You don't want to, I always, the way we teach you, Chuck, is I don't want to set somebody for failure. It's not going to happen. They're coming, right? Thoughts are coming, emotions are coming. Best we can do is on that skill matrix is be aware and then work to regulate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That awareness is what we're trying to amplify or to clarify.
Absolutely.
And like you talked about, the habits that we build in the military, because everything we do in the military is about building that repetitive muscle movement of, if this happens, you do these three things.
Right.
If while doing those three things, this happens, you react a certain way. So it's not unfamiliar to you. You know what to do. Even if it's from the outside, looks like an extremely dangerous situation, you're still able to, like the act of jumping out of an airplane. In order, the Army trains paratroopers in a 3-week course down at Fort Benning, Georgia. And in that 3-week course, it's a series of repetitive tasks.
Right.
It is, it's the posture you take when you jump out of an airplane. It's called hit it. Whenever you hear a drill sergeant or a black hack say hit it, everybody immediately locks into the first position as if you just came out of the aircraft. Hands on the other side of your parachute, your body rigid, face forward, your chin is tucked in. And that's the position that they train you to leave the aircraft. And then as you start counting, you go through the different steps that you do when you jump on an airplane. So you count to 5 after you hit it, and you should feel an opening shock of your parachute. If it doesn't open, well, that's a different problem set and different set of drills. But normally it always opens. So it opens. And so the next movement you do is to gain control of your canopy and look to see if your canopy is fully erected or inflated.
Routine.
It's all about routine. And I went to jump school in 83. And so
that's amazing to me, 83, man.
Yeah. So I can still automatically react to that command of hit it.
Well, it's the patterns, right? Now you're getting deep into the patterns.
And so, that was one of the first schools that I attended after basic and stuff in the early 80s. And it's a great school. It teaches you a foundational on what the Army does. And that's because when you're sitting in an airplane, what do you got going through your head? Oh my God, all these things that can go bad. You got all this chatter in your head. You got all these things. You're looking and oh my God, am I going to do the right things? Am I going to do things right? Am I going to screw up? Am I going to screw up the mission? Am I going to screw up my buddy on my left and right? Am I going to do? So you got all this stuff. Well, as soon as the command is given of go, when you're in the aircraft, which is not hit it, but you go, you automatically execute what you were taught.
The task-based competency. I get it. Listen, I want to back out of this rabbit hole. I want to go back to that living with emotions thing, because I mean, we don't want to get deep down into the PTSD thing, but you did kind of commented on it. It's like once, sight, I keep it simple: sight, sound, taste, touch, or smell. Once it goes in, it's in there. You smell that scent, you see that destruction. Again, it goes in there. So, we're teaching there about that chatter thing, helping folks get into their head a little bit better. So, the whole idea of living with emotions is just a human factor as we teach it today, right? Our emotional brain, the hijack and such. But, I get very passionate when I talk to a lot of veterans nowadays at the VA hospital. All they want to do is drug them, but these skills are already within a lot of our veterans, Chuck. And it's like, I can mention one young man right now. He's 27, right? Did all the stuff in the military, came back, PTSD, but right now he's a private contractor flying drones and loving it. But he just got out of balance. But it was like once I was able to show him the skills, give him the ideas of human nature, right? Chatter, and here it comes. The balance came, the peace came, the serenity came. Because the kid already had the skills. I mean, he was loaded with them, but he just didn't know he had these tools.
He know how to apply those tools to his current problem, which is a lot of what the resiliency training is done in the military. And I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not an expert in PTSD.
Right.
But you hit it, you nailed it. A lot of times I believe people, and I know what happened to me when I got out of the Army. It's a sense of identity. It's a sense of of belonging to a group of or an individual or a group of like-minded individuals, so you can deal with things together. Once people separate from the army, from the military, it was a very strong emotion. And a tough part of my life is when you get out, you're no longer that person. You're no longer that staff sergeant. You're no longer that fill in the blank colonel or whoever it is. And so you think you should be something else. And I think what you're talking about is, hey, we have those skill sets resonant within us. We have those abilities to work through very difficult mind problems that are within us. We have those skill sets. We have those habits. We have those, what we haven't done, and we haven't learned to apply them.
Well said.
And I think a lot of what you're teaching is, that's what I was kind of drawn to it when you and I first met, is that it's a practical method to apply the skills that are already resonant when we talk about veterans. Now, I can see where people who don't go through a military type of selection process and training, who don't have that resonant skill set.
Right. No, I'm with you. You know, and it's interesting. I was talking to, we were in Alexandria, Louisiana over the weekend. I was talking to Merle. Merle's down there and military, you know, Merle's in his 80s, right? So Vietnam. And, you know, he was quick to continue to correct me. And I'm seeing this more, but these are learned behaviors. I think that's significant, you know, whether I'm a parent trying to raise a child, or I'm you know, which we've done all that, or I'm in a career and I'm trying to raise a team. These are behaviors that if you show up already, you learned them. You would agree? I mean,
I would agree. I mean, everybody comes to whatever organization they join with their own personal sets of beliefs and values.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are learned behaviors that you come to. And so you and I come from completely different backgrounds. And so you and I both come to whatever organization or whatever endeavor that we want to accomplish or embark on with our own beliefs and value systems. And then the key is when we join an organization, and every organization is a living being, it has its own sets of beliefs and values.
Well said, sir. Yes, sir.
And so we have to, as leaders, assimilate our beliefs and values into the organization's larger beliefs and values. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's conflict. There's a conflict there.
Well, a lot of breakdown.
There is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because if you're supporting or you belong to an organization that does not share the same beliefs and values that you have one. It's a binary equation. Right. You have one or two options. You can either looking for the right word, suppress your own beliefs and values and accept the organizations, or you can walk away.
Right.
Now, some people can't walk away.
Well, I say, and the other one's very unhealthy. You know, you're going to be a headline. You're going to be a headline.
But you can assimilate them. You can find organizations that share your personal and belief.
All right. So look, I want to back out because you said something. I'll back out a little rabbit hole there. You said something, and I think it may be relevant for a lot of our listeners, and that is, and the next question is going to be, what do you do to unwind and relax? Because we wanted to, I mean, maybe they're the same, but what did during that transitional period? Again, you had these credentials. You had been in so many positions and roles of authority, adversity in the military. So you transitioned there. Because it took us a few. I think, you know, you and I had, I mean, you went on a tour with me through New York. You watched me deliver a class on national intelligence to electric utility. And I learned so much from you on your feedback from that class. But how did you navigate that time period of finding yourself, reinventing yourself? I mean, that was almost chapter 2 right there. I mean,
and that is phase 2. And that's a longer conversation because that was a real challenging time for me.
Yeah.
Because at least for transitioning military. So I was a career military officer, served for 30 years. I had been a colonel for 5 and a commander for the last 3 of those 5. And so my identity was a brigade level commander. I commanded a very large organization. It grew even larger when I was in Afghanistan. And so when I left the military, I was Mr. Webster, not Colonel Webster. And so, I'm not trying to say that, well, that's a real thing. That's a real difference. Because, having spent 5 years, a colonel in the Army is a mid-grade senior officer. I mean, he's the first rung of the strategic leadership pyramid. And so, I mean, your voice, you have value in the Army as a colonel. And everybody that served in the military, regardless of rank, had a certain value that was associated with their positions and the level of rank that they achieved. Because in the military, that rank is visible. So unlike a supervisor on a construction crew, it looks just like everybody else on that construction crew. In the Army, there's a visual symbols that show the different levels of leadership in an organization. By either stripes on their sleeves, or officer insignia on their collars, or their center of their breast in combat uniforms. So there's a visible symbol. And that's an identity. It means something.
I understand. So when they go into the civilian world,
you take all of that off.
So what let's just say we have a listener out right now that's out there, and they're I don't want to say they're struggling, but they're trying to find their way. What's the one, and I know there's probably a handful of things, but what's the one small bit of direction or advice you might tell to someone that's coming back, re-entering into the civilian world?
You've got to seek like groups that are going through the same challenges that you're going through. Personally, I find mine in the church and through my Christian faith. A lot of people seek out veteran organizations. People seek out neighborhood organizations. My recommendation is you can't isolate yourself.
Right.
And you can't turn to artificial either stimulant or even something that's going to try to deaden the pain, or alcohol, drugs, or any other things.
Yeah, the suppression part of it.
I chose to pretty much stop all of that. Actually, I pretty much stopped drinking, and I never was much of a drinker anyway. But my wife and I, we don't drink any longer, and we work out, we spend time together. And my light group, my core group, is my family.
Right.
My wife tells me I'm missing a gaji because I have no desire to go hang out with a bunch of guys. Every once in a while I play golf, I do all that kind of stuff.
Well, my God, man, 31 years of Army, that's enough guy, right? I mean, 31 years. Yeah.
I spend my time with my spouse, but whoever, like you said, a listener listening to this, you're not alone in this.
Right.
You're not the only person that's ever gone through this challenge. We all do. Everybody does. A four-star general getting out of the Army, the next day looks just like any other civilian on the street. No longer a 4-star general.
Yeah, there's there's a tremendous amount of emotional intelligence skills there, especially in the self competencies. They're really going to get tested. Redefining oneself.
You got to find
It's. Hmm.
the way I look at it, when I struggled through this portion, you got to find the new balance.
Right.
What was important to you when you're in a career in the military or a career in the civilian world, or you're striving for a promotion, a position, a level of responsibility, a salary level, and you're working really hard to do that. And a lot of times when you're working that hard at something, other things are the cost. Other things being your family, your health, your faith.
Right.
Those become the cost of success. What I have found that, and I had these conversations with a lot of my peers who are now, who either have already transitioned out of the Army or otherwise, if you hang your hat on a professional, a professional goal, CEO, president, COO, and not on the best father, a founded Christian, a good friend, that's where you got to find that new balance. New things are more important.
Well, that's, we got me all about models. So we got that 6-cylinder model that kind of just brings that out, man. It puts the quarters where the quarters go and the nickels where the nickels go.
This concludes part 1 of this EQ for Life podcast. Thank you for participating in this podcast event, EQ for Life. To learn more about the EQ for Life podcast or Parish, please contact us online at info@parishowentaylor.com or call 866-487-2815. That's 866-487-2815.